Okay. I will now call to order the City of Sherwood Budget Committee meeting for June 5th, 2025. David, will you please conduct the roll call?
Chair Strode.
Here.
Vice Chair Kaufman.
Here.
Brian Fairbanks.
Present.
Aaron is absent. Lana Painter.
Present.
Thomas Sherwood is absent. Nancy Taylor.
Here.
Tim Rosner.
I'm here.
Kim Young.
Present.
Renee Browse.
Here.
Taylor Giles.
Here.
Keith Mays.
Oh.
Doug Scott.
Present.
And Dan Stanky.
Okay, tonight's meeting will be a working and listening session. We will have time for general public comment at the beginning of the meeting. If you wish to speak, please fill out a public comment form and give it to the finance director. The committee chair will recognize these persons wishing to speak, and any questions should be addressed through the committee chair. I would like to ask David Bodway, the city's finance director, if we have received any comments.
No, we have not, Chair.
Okay, I will close the public comment. And then we'll move on to new business tonight, and I will turn it over to David.
Yeah, so where we ended last meeting is we're right to the approval process, and we talked a little bit about some changes that needed to occur. Before I jump in, did you have any comments you want? Okay. And so I sent the committee, I'm just going to put it up on the big screen. I sent to the committee some budget changes that need to be done. Everyone should have that packet in front of you. There's extra packets on the table, and I'll end up putting this online. I highlighted the numbers that changed. So all the presentation that the departments, presentations that the departments have done, that doesn't change anything. Those numbers are still the same. You could see how it's just the beginning balance and that bottom section, how we have to report it in the budget book. Because it was, the total column was overinflating beginning fund balance. And at the very bottom, it was overinflating reserve for future years. So those are the only things that I changed. And thank you, Katie, for pointing that out, and Kim for you pointing that out as well. So I want to open it up for some questions. I'm more than happy to walk through that all for you. But those were the only numbers that have changed. Top and bottom, everything in the middle stayed the same.
Is this just questions on that, or questions, is this open discussion on the budget?
Questions on this. If there's no questions on this, also we talked about, we're in the process of splitting out all those performance measures by each year versus they were combined, and some of the numbers looked a little higher than they should be. So we're in the process of doing that. So when it comes in front of city council here, those will be all split out and all this stuff will be fixed. But really now it's opening up for general discussion if the committee wants to discuss the budget further.
I have a question. Craig, so obviously any cuts we've had to make are always not good to have to make cuts, but I did have a concern on the public safety, because I think that's one of our highest priorities as a city, public safety. And even though it was on a half-time contract position, if you find ticketing is increasing or that there's a need to bring that back, you, in your purview, could bring that back to council at some point and ask if you need to reinstate any positions?
Yeah, and I would just add to that, if we see an incline in tickets or we're not being able to move forwards with that, we would actually use what's in the police department's budget first, which was in the city manager's control there. And then if we need to do some sort of supplemental, we would come back to council at that time.
Even if that meant for some bridge, if, you know, in the past we've used some out of the investment fund. I mean, council could, if they chose, do something like that, but we'd have a discussion if it got to that need.
I think we would have a discussion. There's money in the community investment fund if we needed to. Council wanted to move some over for that. But you wouldn't hear from me until the police department's budget was down and we actually needed it.
Okay.
I mean, there's a lot of things that can happen in a year.
Right.
With either folks leaving or maybe overtime doesn't get spent, we can move around. So, but there is a way to take care of that.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
So, this isn't a question as much as a comment, but I feel like as a city council, we have not, as part of our city goals, looked at new revenue sources. I know you guys are looking at grants and different things like that something that we need to put on for next year's planning session? Because yes, a lot can happen in a year. You know, we might get building again and other things like that. But is that something that we have to specifically plan for and say, hey, these numbers aren't getting better. You know, we're still razor thin. How do we make more money, right?
I think that's a discussion council should have in some work sessions as we move forward. I do know that if it didn't hit the goals, I do know that in the goal setting this last year, we did talk a little bit about that. If somewhere along the lines about other revenue sources. But I think there comes a time, I know that we're reviewing some TLT, we're reviewing some other areas right now. So I think there's a work session in the horizon on that. And I believe there's a work session in the horizon for the police advisory board to come and present some stuff they've been working on soon.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that'd be a good work session to have. And just to clarify, I know what you were saying, but just to clarify for people looking or listening, we've been very successful in bringing outside money in for capital projects. Unfortunately, none of that goes into our general fund. And what Taylor is talking about is ongoing revenue sources, which are a lot harder to get. You can do a levy. There's all kinds of options, but I think Craig's right. That's a work session. That's, because that's a lot of those options are going to the public. And we have to have a lot of discussion.
And I think, given the situation we're in, as council, it's our duty to have that conversation.
Yeah,
Whether we
absolutely.
decide to do any of these things or not is irrelevant. I mean, not irrelevant, but we have to have the conversation with the situation that we're in right now.
Right.
Put all the options on the table, talk about them, and
Yeah, I just don't want to be here in 2 years and say, hey, we still don't have building, we still don't have ticket revenue, we got to cut another 8 or another 10 or whatever it is, and now we're in a real problem because of the operational budget is just shrinking. So I would thought let's schedule that and see if we can, again, put everything on the table.
Well, and just to add to that, there are a lot of, like the League of Oregon Cities is working really hard with the legislature on property tax reform and some other things that could potentially help us out in the future too. But those are even bigger lifts.
Yeah,
but
10
yeah, it's a
years.
worthy
Yeah.
conversation. I think Nancy had a question.
Where is, in the budget, where is this new position for a communications person? Where does that fall under?
So that is actually in the budget. It's split out. There's a small amount in the general fund, which I believe there's some benefits for hiring that position citywide. And then it's split between the utility funds as well as some in broadband for marketing and communication.
And this is a new position. Who will they report to? You?
Assistant city manager. All communication is going to end up with the ACM.
And we had a similar position that was actually approved a few years back. It's just, we held off on it for a little bit just to kind of fine tune the job description but the similar position was approved a few years back, so.
But we've functioned without one.
Well,
No.
we haven't done a very good job.
Challenges, yeah.
It's kind of if the manager of a department happens to be good at that skill, then they'll do it, but it's always on top of their normal duties. We lucked out at the police department where there's somebody who's really good at it and, has made it, I know we've got at least double the number of citizens that are following that. So
But
that people
it's being piecemeal.
yeah, we
All
don't have
over
a
the city.
consistent, clear.
It's all piecemeal, and so as we're trying to get a new vision for, we've got major projects that are going on, we've got Sherwood West, we've got meetings, we've got all of these things, we've got a new website going up. It's just gonna get harder unless we coordinate that and just say, hey, here is the message, and even the economic development, right, as we're going after businesses and companies, let's have a unified message rather than can you squeeze this communication in addition to your regular duties?
Well,
Can I ask
Yeah.
one more question
Yeah.
on top of that? What is the salary range on this? In 1,400?
It's in in the appendix in the back.
If you go to the appendix.
I don't need to know exactly, but what is it 45,000 a year? Is it 28?
It
Where
lists
is it?
bands, it doesn't list the.
There's a lot more.
Maybe PERS would be 45,000 a year.
Right, exactly.
While you're looking that up, just 2 points on that, and Craig touched on this, but I want to make sure the public understand this. Even if we decide not to do that, it doesn't have a huge impact on our general fund, and that's where our challenges are, because most of the work is going to be coming and charged back to other funds, like the broadband fund.
The other thing I would say is,
Well, I have one more point. Just real quick. And my second point is, just to kind of expand on what Taylor's talking about, I think the city, we constantly need to be improving in how we communicate with our community, finding ways to make sure our community is aware of what's going on, they can be involved in things when it's important for them to do too. You know, we have a lot of families, we have even a lot of people that are juggling soccer matches and all those types of things, and we have to figure out better ways to communicate